All right. Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening for the third installment of the AAC Careers Explained series, presented by the Asian American Architects and Engineers Foundation. To be respectful of everyone's time, we're going to get started. The topic of today's webinar will focus on the E of AEC, which is engineering, but specifically on civil engineering. My name is Crystal Tan, co-chair of the Student Outreach Committee. This is my second year on the foundation board, and I've been a member of AAae for about 4 years. Tonight, my co-host and co-chair is Alex Lin.
Yeah, hi everyone. Hey, my name is Alex, and it's also my second year serving on the foundation chair, and now serving co-chair along with Crystal as the Student Outreach Committee. Thanks for joining, and we're very excited to bring this installment of the series, especially for civil engineering, which is my discipline of focus. So along with my co-hosts, we'll have a panel we'll introduce later. But it would be great if you guys can turn on your camera, but no pressure, which lets us see your faces. And Crystal?
Here's the agenda for the evening. First, we will talk a little bit about the AAae Foundation and the mission behind the organization. We will then go into a brief description of the project roles of an AEC team. Third, we have a Q&A with our wonderful panel. And last, closing remarks. So every year, the foundation dedicates itself to help students and young professionals with scholarship support and educational events such as this webinar. We are always looking for students and young professionals to participate and to learn more about how we can help them grow and to volunteer in our efforts to engage and make a difference in the AEC community. It is important for people in their career to get out there, see what we do in the real world, and this is a great way to do that. Get involved with AAae. And some ways to get involved are through the scholarship and student outreach committees. If you want to learn more, please reach out to us.
Very good. So before we get into the panel discussion and about everyone's experiences, I just want to set the stage about what is the kind of AEC industry and what sort of roles we have in the industry. So at the beginning, we have typically our project owners, and they will issue an RFP or RFQ request for proposal, and they want to see what we can build for them, and they will solicit proposals from architects, engineers. And previously we had a presentation on architects, and they share a little bit about what they do. And we also have a presentation about building engineers, about specialty trades, about vertical construction. And today we're talking about civil engineers, about what we do as civil engineers. And in the next month, this event, we will talk about construction industry, about program construction management. And these are kind of the cycles of a typical project. And after we go into each of the roles and the phases of a different project cycle, it goes back into the owner. So this is a general understanding, but hopefully this will set you a stage about when we talk about RFPs, proposals, and different specialty trades throughout our discussion. So with that, let's introduce our panelists. So thank you all for being here, the panelists, and thank you to everyone who's listening. First, we have Brigitte Ogawan, is that correct? From Transportation Engineer with Jacobs. And we have Tan Cao, the structural engineer, who's a principal bridge engineer with Parsons, and Lorraine Abustan is a water engineer, and she's a senior project manager with Brown & Caldwell. And we also have Sean Theriot, who's a engineering intern with GHD. And yeah, so before we get started, if you have any questions, feel free to put in the chat box, and then we will ask you your questions throughout the presentation. So I'll let the panelists introduce themselves, and they'll share about their experience. And yeah, so let's start with Brigitte. What's your background, and can you introduce a little about yourself and your firm, and what type of project you work on, and maybe also years of industry experience?
Sure, thanks. Hello, everyone. My name is Brigitte Ogawan, and I work for Jacobs Engineering in the Irvine location. So my focus is transportation. So most of my work is in highway and roadway projects. So typically for agencies such as Caltrans, Metro, OCTA, and local cities like City of LA. So some of the projects I've worked on is freeway widening, interchange improvements, active transportation, such as bike path and sidewalk improvements. In total, I have about 9.5 years of experience. I've worked in both private and public. So yeah, hopefully I can share some of my experience with you guys.
Good. Yeah. Well, thank you for being on the panel. Love to hear more about your experience. And Tan, introduce a little about yourself and your firm.
Thanks, Alex. Hi, everyone. My name is Tan Cow, and I'm a principal bridge engineer with Parsons. I've been there for about 3.5 years now. Overall, I have about 10 to 11 years of experience in the industry. I primarily just work on public works transportation structures. And what that means is mostly bridges. But this year, for example, I'm working on some BRT structures for the bus station shelters. So that also is encompassed in transportation as well. In the broad scheme of things, with bridges, it could be anything from a replacement to a retrofit. So looking at always new structures, potentially retrofitting old structures, and everything in between.
Very good. Cool. Yeah, definitely interesting. We cover vertical construction about infrastructure engineering, and then I'd love to have your opinion on horizontal construction. Lorraine, explain your career path a little bit, or just introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. Yes, I'm Lorraine Avustan. I'm a senior project manager with Brown and Caldwell. I'm a water, wastewater, and environmental engineer. Is my background, obviously all in civil engineering, and mainly work on projects for the City of LA and County of LA projects, but ranging from pipelines to stormwater infrastructure, green streets, as well as groundwater treatment and remediation. So among other things I've worked on, I've also in the past have worked on the SoFi Stadium in Inglewood. So that was did the civil design for that particular project. And yeah, so I'm happy to be here today and to be part of this.
Yeah, I know. I'm glad to have your perspective. You have definitely from land development experience to water experience. It's definitely a value to our panel. And lastly, we have Sean, who's actually still a student, but he has actually interned with 2 different companies. So we figured we invited him to be on our panel today. We can share his perspective as a young engineer on what he has learned in the last 2 years of engineering in the industry. So Sean, just a little about yourself.
Yeah, thank you, Alex. So yeah, super happy to be here, everyone. My name is Sean Theriot. I'm currently an incoming senior at Cal State Long Beach. Currently, I am a transportation intern at GHD. I used to work at Mark Thomas as a transportation intern. I have going on almost 2 years of experience in the industry. Coming up in November, it's come up fast. As far as products I've worked on, mostly local street improvements, sidewalk improvements, some bike lane improvements, and a couple of Caltrans projects sprinkled in here and there for on-ramp, off-ramp redesigns or some highway widening projects. Just been an absolute blast to work in so far, loving it.
Great. Good. Now that we've met our panelists, Lorraine, let's start about your career path. Why or when did you choose to become a civil engineer and maybe slowly go into all the path of your career so far? And how did you get where you are today?
Yeah, so my dad was actually an engineer. And so like quite a few folks I've spoken to, their parents may have been, may have been in the path or the career that they were interested in before they decided to ultimately go in that path. I was, so much like that, my dad was an engineer, but he was an electronic engineer. And I knew I didn't particularly want to go into computers or electrical engineering, but I knew I was interested in the environment and protecting the environment and saving the environment. Like when we're younger in that age, we think about the things we're interested in, and the environment was definitely something I was interested in. And but I didn't know whether I wanted to be an environmental engineer or environmental scientist. and doing more research through school as part of this honors program in high school, did more research into it and realized that I wanted to be an environmental engineer. So obviously that was one of the specialties within civil engineering. And from while I was in school, realized that the within environmental engineering, there's water, air, and soil pollution. So even within such a specialized, one of the specialties, or within civil engineering, there was also specialties within that as well. And ultimately decided to go into water treatment, water engineering. As well, regarding my path, I had gone to UCI and did my undergrad there. And, an interesting thing is, my path was actually very, it wasn't straight. It wasn't a straight and narrow path. I would say that my education as well as my career has been very, very winding and branched off in different, almost using a civil engineering or water term, like branched off like tributaries. So, and it wasn't always a straight straight and narrow path, but I actually even struggled during my undergraduate degree. And civil engineering, the classes were pretty challenging, very fast paced. I feel like high school didn't necessarily prepare us for the intensity of the classes. And going to a class or school like UCI, University of California, getting acclimated to the quarter system was definitely different from coming from the semester system. And I actually had to switch paths and went into environmental science instead. But looking back, that was actually, it worked out, because that going into that degree and then having the specialization of urban regional planning, that actually set me up to have a better understanding and background of where my ultimate career path would be and my goal. And I still had my heart set on civil and environmental engineering, but just had to get there on a different way. And then ultimately got my master's degree at Cal State Fullerton in civil and environmental engineering.
Cool, yeah. And how did you get from where you are today? Because I know you had a really winding path. So
Yeah.
now to Brown Akawa and senior project manager.
Actually, when I was a new grad, young professional, I was hired by RBF Consulting, which is now Michael Baker and Associates down in Irvine. And land development was the booming industry at the time. Like you couldn't like stop all the master planned residential communities that were popping up. So I actually started in land development and went into design for all, from grading to storm drain, sewer improvements. And the way that some folks that managers and mentors that I had in land development like to describe land development is that you're kind of like a jack of all trades and not necessarily one specialty. But during that time, I really was able to learn about the permitting processes, the whole, interfacing with the cities and our clients and the agencies and understanding that. So I feel like even though my career path wasn't very, went from as an engineering graduate straight to engineering intern, straight to like, engineer to project manager, all the types of projects and skills and everything I picked up along the way really helped to make me a well-rounded engineer and ultimately a project manager where I am today. And then from RBF Consulting, I also decided, like I mentioned, while I was there, was working on my master's degree. So that's when I went to Cal State Fullerton and, went into more focus on environmental engineering. So after that, I decided to work for a small environmental engineering company in Ventura, called Oneida Total Integrated Enterprises, OTI for short. but that's when I did our remediation projects and groundwater treatment projects. And then from there, worked at another company and worked on this, again, land development, but with us for the SoFi Stadium and other projects within that, but ultimately decided to go back to water, And I worked at Tetra Tech and now at Brown and Caldwell.
Oh, what a diverse experience. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
And now with that, I have, stormwater improvements and projects are really popping up with the LA County Measure W.
Mhm.
Having the background of a little bit of grading, a little bit of a street improvements, having an understanding, curb and gutter and versus just having, if I had gone just, mainly focused on water treatment and pipelines, may not have had as a robust and diverse experience to bring to the table.
Yeah, no, definitely. I can definitely relate to that. So, Brigitte, share a little about your career path and why civil engineering to our prospective audiences.
Sure, yeah. So I was lucky when I was in high school, the city of LA had an internship program.
Wow.
I was actually selected to intern at Caltrans District 7. And so my last summer of high school, I interned at Caltrans District 7. And at the time, I've already applied to school. I know I wanted to do engineering and I picked civil engineering just because, I'm always on the road. I was like so excited. I just got my license. I was like, all right, this is it. So went to Caltrans. I got some really good experience there. So I went to school at UCI and I did civil engineering. But it's not until maybe my late second year and third year when I decided that I wanted to do transportation. It's because actually I work on a BRT project for school and I just fell in love. So I know, Tan, you're working on a BRT. So it's a really, really great project that I had. So I did that for school and then I applied for an internship at CH2M Hill at the time. I don't know if you guys recall what CH2M Hill is. It doesn't exist anymore. It's Jacobs now. But my first project was for the 710 gap and there was a BRT portion of it. And so I was involved in that one. And then because I was just so passionate about BRT, I did my senior design at UCI about BRT. And so it was kind of like, I guess, love at first sight, and then it just ended up being a forever career for me, at least up until now. And yeah, in CH, I did try a little bit of things here and there. So I did do a little bit of water and I did a little bit of construction management, but I just still gravitate to transportation, where I'm now.
Yeah, so definitely different path, right? But very straight and direct. But no, still good. And then we have Sean. A little bit about your experience, and then I know you're still a student, but yeah, why you pick civil engineering?
Let's see, it's been acting up to this effect, everything I gotta say. So when I was in high school, it was really simple. I saw a starter of NASA, so I was like, all right, let me go aerospace engineer. Then, all right, cool, space, rockets. I was like, couldn't get enough of that. I thought it was so cool. Switched to community college, started doing that. Didn't take any actual major specific classes for a long time. And as I was going through though, kind of like thinking about my long-term career path, my goals, like where I wanted to go to school, transition and everything, kind of realized that, I wanted something more close to the community, something that kind of benefit, people around me. And I kind of came to the conclusion that you can't get much further through your community than going to space. So I figured maybe going to aerospace is going to be the best route for me. At that point, I was also working in lumberyard at the time. I was a lot of contractors got to know them.
Sorry to interrupt. Pause. I think you're frozen. Or want to restart we heard your audio, and restart your video. You're a little breaking up. Or is that just
Let me see.
what else?
Let's see. How am I coming in now?
Better. Okay. Yeah. No. Sorry. Yeah. Continue. No, we heard everything though.
Okay, so you heard everything. Okay, perfect.
Okay.
So where I leave off. So I was at the lumberyard. That still seemed pretty awesome. Started looking into it. So I decided to go into that for Long Beach State, transferred to civil engineering major. And at that point, I basically just went all in. I was such super gung-ho about transferring. I've been trying to get to Long Beach State for years. And so when I eventually transferred, I was super excited, just wanted to start doing AAae events, doing networking events, get to know people. I was like, oh, you're like somewhat remotely close to the engineering field. I'm gonna be your best friend. You know, just talking to people, getting to know them. And I've been so blessed to meet so many amazing people. You know, besides Alex, Crystal, all people in this call, I've got so many friends now in the industry. It's been amazing. And I've been very lucky to be able to get an internship my first semester of college, been with that company for a year and a half, transferred to a new company, another great team. Just worked on good projects with good teams, got a lot of good mentoring, a lot of good insights in the industry. And it took off fast. I could not have planned it out this well. Just the amount of opportunity that's come this way. And I've just been trying my best, keep learning, keep being open-minded, just keep, continue on the career path that's been, kind of going my way so far.
Very good. And then we have Tan. Explain a little bit about your background or career path.
Yeah, thanks, Alex. So I would say my history has been really, really unique. I grew up in Reno, Nevada. It's a little bit of a small town, and I would say I probably grew up in a somewhat stereotypical Asian family. To give you some examples, my brother's a pharmacist, and my sister is studying some medical field. I had, probably like many Asian Americans, had some pressure to pursue some field in medical or law perhaps, but to be honest, I was terrible at chemistry and biology, so I knew that wasn't going to be it for me. In fact, I thought maybe architecture was where I would kind of see myself, but they just didn't offer that. So I went with what I thought would be the closest, and I thought that was civil engineering without knowing what civil engineering was at the time. But fast forward, I graduated in 2009, and for those who remember, that was the the economy really tanked, so there was really no jobs. I didn't have a lot of options. It was really either stick around and find kind of a job in a field that didn't necessarily apply to civil engineering, or potentially go to grad school. So I went with the graduate school route. And I just so happened at the time was working for a company that was doing testing here locally in San Diego, where I live and work right now. But at the university at UCSD, I got a chance to check out the lab there. So that was the only grad school that I applied to, and I got in there. And then as I was about to finish, I applied for one internship, and they offered me the job, so I just took it. So you can kind of see that, a lot of the decisions that I made at the time were really just the only decision that was available. So I didn't have a lot of choices. But fast forward to now, my career path, like I think many of my colleagues here, have just been sort of non-linear. I haven't necessarily, I would say, had an ideal career path, but I think looking back, a lot of it was just opportunity based, in that sometimes you have a certain set of skill sets, you think you have enough to get the job done, and you find that you did a pretty good job with it, and other people see that and they reach out to you, and you sort of string these jobs back to back, and then eventually you reach sort of a critical point in your career where you have like the confidence to really just go after it and do all sorts of different things. And so now I'm doing not just design, but I'm doing both helping out with construction as well, something that's definitely new to me for someone who has been doing design for most of their career. But it's been nice to see I can go out in the field and see how, for example, the codes that we use and the way we detail bridges, for example, why it is what it is, because when it goes out to in the field, you can really start to connect the dots that way. So I've really enjoyed that part, and I think as I've advanced in my career, I've done all sorts of other things related to bridge design and construction, such as doing some pursuits, and that's something that will come, I think, mid-career or late in career for a lot of people. But that's an important aspect of our industry, is learning how to essentially write proposals for work and do the work and really tie it all together for our clients. And so that's basically a snapshot of my career so far.
Yeah, no, great to hear. And then, yeah, definitely just strive through and stick it out through the downtimes. And I guess the grad school will work out. That's good to hear. So, well, let's move to the question. I bet the first thing that everyone will ask is really, what's your day-to-day like, and what sort of really tasks you do as a civil engineer? So let's start with Sean, because I think we have a variety of experience here. So let's start with Sean. Like, what do you do as an engineering intern at JHD?
I promise you, I'm not. Oh, this is back in the office. I promise you, I wasn't just getting coffee and stapling papers. I was actually contributing to the team, contributing to the project. It started off, small things, doing a lot of quantity takeoffs, simple plan prep things, red lines, call outs. But as it progressed, it started getting a little more in depth. I worked on things from utilities, base mapping to drainage design, construction details, lots of stage construction, lots of traffic handling. My bread and butter of the last probably 2 years has been probably curb ramp design. Curb ramp design has been something that's shown up on probably every single project that I've worked on. In the last 2 years, I've probably designed, oh man, like, I don't know, 70 curb ramps or so using the standard plans and the APWA plans. So at this point, I walking around everyday life is like, oh, that curb ramp, that's the standard. That curb ramp, that's not the standard. I gotta fix that. So it's been pretty funny to have that change my mindset, but I've been very surprised at how much of an opportunity the companies that I've worked for is giving me, as far as like giving me these, like, not just like bare minimum role, like they're actually letting me contribute actively. I feel like I'm part of the team. I'm not just an intern. The engineering intern part definitely comes in where, I have something that I can contribute to the team, and that's kind of helped my skill set grow over these last 2 years. And so it's been a really cool experience to kind of see, myself become a better and better member of the teams that I've been on, because my skill sets that have been, developing over the years.
Yeah, definitely. I think especially now, infrastructure and civil engineering is a booming field. Like everyone's, our infrastructure needs rehabilitation, and then there's a lot of funding coming out for all the infrastructure improvements. So yeah, I think we're putting a lot of students and really everyone's willing to train new staff and engineers. So let's move to Brigida. You're going to share about your day-to-day, significance of your tasks and see what you do.
Yeah, so it kind of just changes depending on what project I have. And I never just work on one project in a day. There's always multiple projects that I juggle. And so I have a project that I'm actually a design engineer. And so in that case, I would be modeling a lot of AutoCAD, Civil 3D, a lot of Open Roads. In case you haven't heard, it's a new software by Station or Bentley. So a lot of like 3D modelings. I'm also a design manager for a bike path project for this for Metro, which is the LA River Bike, where for that one, I would coordinate with every single discipline lead to make sure, all the coordinations are, getting conveyed to each discipline. And then all the client's goal are, mentioned, and everyone's aware of the client's goal. So we're on track, on schedule. I'm also a deputy project manager for a roundabout project in the city of Palmdale. And so I interact with clients a lot and then, coordinate with the team. So a lot of different things, a lot of, different type of, my day changes. Sometimes I have basically meetings back to back. But sometimes, I get to have 2 hours where I just have my alone time and I get to model for that focused 2 hours, which is great. So I try to keep my tasks diverse, even though I think now I'm gearing more towards the management side. I am still very much interested in design. And so any type of opportunities that comes, I try to offer my services to the project managers we have in Jacobs. And that way, hopefully, once I become, full-time project manager, I can gauge how much time it takes to actually design certain things. And then, I can, if client asks a question, I can answer it myself without, relying too much on my team. But yeah, I really like, working with multiple people. But at the same time, it's a balance, different type of things. And yeah.
Oh, yeah, sounds like hey, juggle a lot of project and priorities. What type of skill sets do you need to do what you do? Thanks.
Well, when I first started, I was like maybe like more of an introvert, and so I'm very shy. You know, I wouldn't want to like do presentations. I wouldn't want to like talk to clients because I just get really nervous. So like design was just kind of like a comfort zone for me, just because you're on your own, and then the only person that you have to coordinate with is like probably the design lead, and that's it. And so as I progress, you know, I become more involved and then I join professional organizations. And so I become more talkative and then I become more comfortable now that I know people. And so just kind of be more comfortable with speaking in front of people and sharing your experience that helps you become like a project manager. And then, you know, all the technical aspect that you learn in the very beginning of your career that also helps when you eventually manage a project.
Cool, very good. And then let's move to Tan. Yeah, share about your day and as a principal bridge engineer.
Yeah, thanks, Alex. So I just want to echo Brigitte and essentially say again that, you know, with bridge engineering, a lot of what we do is collaborative. We work with the other disciplines in our office. There are times where in this specific discipline, you can work on your own for a little bit, but at the end of the day, you're often working with other disciplines because they either rely on your information or your information potentially impacts others. So we work together all the time. Right now with bridge engineering, it is a quite technical field. And so at times it can be pretty heavy on the calculation side. A lot of the calculations that I do sometimes are no different than the calculations I did during college.
Wow.
So anything related to structural design, things of that nature, I still do today. So it's nice to know that a lot of what I learned is being carried through. Aside from that, it really just jumps all over the place. I think that if we're working on something that's very preliminary as far as a bridge design goes, we look at, you know, just basic bridge geometry. There's a lot of manuals that you can look at to kind of give you a feel for how big something needs to be, how the dimensions and geometry of a bridge, for example, based on how long it is. On the complete opposite end, if I'm looking at construction, I'm often out in the field. I'm using the plans and I'm working with what's called a structures rep, who typically is the day-to-day person out in the field, and working with them just to make sure that, for example, the design intent shown on the plans is actually being implemented in the field. I think one thing that I've learned so far is that it's surprisingly not always a straightforward path to get from a plan set to a finished product. And there's a lot of information sharing along the way and communication with the contractor to kind of get there. Aside from that, I would say my only other day-to-day task is really just being at this point kind of the resident expert on my projects. So if it is, as I mentioned, like a BRT structure or bridge, a lot of those questions that fall on that team, I usually end up taking on. So it does require a lot of, I think, foundation knowledge that just comes from project experience, comes from past experience from projects, and then also just kind of like experience and knowledge that's been gained along the way. So that's a little bit of what I do.
Cool. And let me ask a follow-up. Well, structural engineer is very, you know, like you mentioned, it's a calculation-based, technical. Maybe you can share what's the satisfaction or significance of being a structural engineer, especially we live in California, where structure is such an important part of all our infrastructure.
Yeah. So I think the best example that I can give, although it's not a, I would say, a happy picture, is that structural engineering is really important, and oftentimes the calculations that we put together have a lot of conservatism built into them. We want to make sure this stuff is going to be safe for the public. The worst case that can happen is if a structure falls and it's because of a structure, like a calculation, for example, like something that you saw, I think, at the Florida International University.
Florida.
It's something that we never want to put ourselves in a situation. And so because of that reason, oftentimes we're not just conservative with our work, but we check it tirelessly. We have other people check it. And so it's really important that we get all those things right. You know, it's not just fine tuned, but it's like it's gonna work, and it's gonna work in almost the worst case scenario. That being like a severe earthquake, something of that nature. So it is really important, you know, not just that as an engineer that you, I would say, understand structural engineering, but there's also additional requirements, whether you're working for a job that is with the state like Caltrans, or whether it's with local agencies. There's a lot of additional requirements and code requirements that you have to understand as well. So it's rooted in an extremely large amount of just knowledge, manuals, and yeah, a lot of calculations and factors of safety, if people are, you know, familiar with that term.
Yeah, very cool. And then Lorraine, you're gonna share also not just your daily, also the significance of water, because, you know, water touches everything in life. So again, share a little bit of that too.
Yeah, so my day-to-day is like what Brigida mentioned on her management side. I do a lot more management. In terms of, I have so many meetings. I have back-to-back meetings, especially now in this virtual world. These back-to-back meetings would not have happened, but now we're just like, hey, let's throw it on there, like, because you're at your desk anyway, so you have a slot there. But my meetings and my projects, my main duties have mainly been managing my projects that I've been working on, particularly my LA County projects and these stormwater projects. I'm working on a pretty large scale program for San Gabriel Valley Greenway Network implementation plan. So working with, we're the prime engineer or prime consultants on the team. And so much like Tan mentioned and Brigida mentioned, even Sean, in terms of coordination with all of the different sub-consultants of different disciplines. We're working with landscape architects, transportation engineers, our community engagement sub-consultant, as well as our other civil engineer who has done analysis in terms of the flood control channel. So essentially with that project, we are assessing and developing plan or moving forward in terms of identifying areas for within the LA County flood control district's flood control channel right of way to determine, to develop a bikeway network, much like what Brigida mentioned in terms of bike paths. But the county is looking to expand, particularly in the San Gabriel Valley, this network that many other areas like the LA River Master Plan has been able to plan and implement. And then in other areas like in Anaheim and in Irvine, where you can, bike from one part of the city to the other side of the city, which is really nice. So so my day-to-day is a lot of like client meetings, coordination meetings internally with my team, with Brown and Caldwell, as well as our sub-consultants, and making sure our teams are, as Brigida had mentioned, on time and on budget, on schedule, and meeting the expectations of the client. And really, it's mainly being able to delegate and work with everyone to make sure that the expectations and goals of the clients are being met by the rest of the team, as well as managing the quality or QA/QC reviews and quality products are being delivered, and that we are meeting our submittal deadlines. So and along those lines, I'm also have been, Tan kind of touched upon it, but I'm doing a lot more work in terms of strategy with our pursuits, and doing work with our proposals, working with our marketing team, identifying, upcoming pursuits and programs for different clients, and figuring out what kind of strategies we'd like, and to pre-position ourselves for those particular pursuits. These are definitely skills, these soft skills that I've learned along the way, were not things that I would say that we, or myself, but maybe, speaking to everyone here, can attest to this, we didn't really learn this in our engineering classes in terms of management. And I feel like I think programs, college programs would definitely benefit, and students would definitely benefit with having more of these soft skills and management learning more of the management side and of engineering, because we are very special. Like if we can, there's the MBA program, we can get our master's in, but then our industries are very technical, very specialized, and it's not very clear cut, and we also deal with a lot of public agencies as our clients, along with private clients. So the needs of public agencies are different from those of private clients, and as well as their schedules and their expectations. So and how to pre-position, because with public agencies, you have to go through the whole process, and there has to be multiple consultants who go propose on a particular project. But for private clients, they can sole source some of these projects and stick with the same consultant for many, many years. But going back to your question, yes, my day-to-day has been mainly managing projects, working with our teams and my deputy project managers, my project analysts, marketing, a lot of support staff, and managing our technical teams as well, and some consultants.
Yeah, no, it seems like, so if you like collaborating with people, civil engineering is definitely a choice.
And yeah, just management,
management.
especially in private consulting, there's like the technical track, but we also, if you want to move up, have to learn how to manage projects and manage teams. And one thing that we've all learned, in order to win more work, is to do good work.
Mhm.
And so we have to have that technical background, that design background. And like I said, a lot of us we've delved in so many different aspects of civil engineering, but it all comes together and really benefits, our projects, and every project is very unique. So, but as far as water engineering, like I mentioned, Brown and Caldwell, for kind of a shameless plug, but we specialize in water and environmental engineering as a company, as a whole. And there's within that, there's so many specialties, because there's water treatment, wastewater treatment, pipelines for both water and sewer. There are pump station design, groundwater remediation, groundwater treatment, and the list goes on and on in terms of all the specialties within water. And you're also a water engineer. And I actually don't know which specialty do you?
Oh, I'm more on the stormwater side, so surface.
Okay. Yeah, didn't know that. This whole time I thought you were doing pipelines, like.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, no, but yeah, so to clarify, I guess, for everyone, is that water just by itself has all these sub-discipline or specialties. Transportation has sub-specializations, from roadways to highways to municipal local streets, and so does structural engineering too. But let's move on. So let's pause for really quick if you have any questions coming in. And oh yes, I know Tan, I know you have to leave a little early, so I will definitely get to your questions. Okay, so no question coming in, but feel free to type in the chat and then we'll try to work it in. So let's go with Tan really quick. I know you mentioned you bring up in a typical Asian American household. So how has your cultural or ethnic background and or upbringing affect your career path? Is there any advantage in being a stereotypical Asian American, and if you have to overcome any challenges?
Yeah, so that's a really great question. I'll talk about a little bit of my history being raised, and I don't know if that's going to resonate with anyone, but growing up in my household, my father he really emphasized math, honestly, just for whatever reason, we just did a lot of math at home. And so I think just through a series of just repetition, math just seemed to be a little bit of a focal point. And doing it so much, I mean, some of it came a little bit easier to me, I would say. And so throughout college, I just sort of discovered that math was just something I could understand quite well. I didn't understand at the time how it would translate into career, but now, because structural engineering is so heavily based in numbers, I think it's worked out really quite well, I think. In terms of my background, I would say, with structural engineering, especially in the Southern California region, like Irvine, I've discovered that structural engineering, there's a lot of Asian Americans even. I'm not sure if that's going to be the case for other disciplines like, say, geotech or transportation, but it's something that I've noticed as a trend, I think, and I would almost go as far as to say that part of the reason might be because, again, with the numbers, that a lot of the calculations is that maybe there is some like, some strength there as far as understanding the technical nature of structural engineering. I think for myself, surprisingly, I'm like one of the few Asian American bridge engineers in my office. I think locally, I don't really see too many Asian Americans within the bridge industry in San Diego. I'm not sure what that means, but it's something that I've noticed. And so I think one thing that I'm always continually working on and aware of is that is bringing more representation to just Asian Americans in the structural engineering industry. But at least I can share with, from my career standpoint, I think, in my opinion, I've had to work a little bit harder and maybe go the mile just a little bit longer, just to be able to advance my career a little bit more just compared to some of my colleagues. I think that, yeah, I think just representation in the industry is something that is continuing needs to be worked on. It's something I'm hoping I can at least contribute a little bit to. And yeah, that's a little bit about kind of like how my background has allowed me to, I think, get this far. The last thing I will say is that none of my relatives are engineers. None of my parents or their siblings are doctors. Myself and my siblings are probably the first generation Asian Americans in the United States. And after seeing how hard I think my parents have worked to at least get us here and provide us these opportunities, I've somehow taken that and subconsciously embedded it into my head and built my work ethic around that, because I think the way I see it is if my parents can work extremely hard to get me to where I am now, there's no reason why I can't work as hard as I hope to live up to that and hopefully be successful in my career, just so that looking back, it will essentially honor them and kind of their efforts and their sacrifice.
Yeah, no, especially, we're definitely want to bring not just things diversity into all of our industries and disciplines. It's very important, and then I think having the platform this organization brings, and really we serve as, I guess, maybe someone to look forward to, and then hopefully future students who watches this, they can learn from our examples and our experiences. I think let's go to Brigida, and then I guess let's pivot a little bit to entry level. What do we look for when we hire new entry level people or staff engineers? How should students prepare themselves to get into the industry?
Yeah, so I always like to kind of like get applications from students that are heavily involved in professional organizations. So the fact that you're part of AAae, that's amazing. That's very good. I'm also very involved in WTS, and whenever I go to lunch and events and I see them, I could see they're interested in the industry. That's why they're part of this professional organization. So I like seeing that. During interviews, I do like someone that, is friendly, easy to talk to, someone with a goal, someone that's, willing to learn. I know there are, you could be really, really smart in school, but, there's a lot of things that you can learn. You can never stop learning. And so, it's always nice to be able to teach someone that's willing to learn rather than someone that feels like they know everything. And so come with that mindset, come with the mindset that there's always something for you to learn, even if you know it already, just to see what they have to say. And then, you never know, you might found out that there's something new that you don't know about. So it's always nice to know that, any of our incoming entry level or interns have that drive to learn from others. And at the same times, I, as a professional, sometimes I even learn from the entry level intern. And so, don't be shy to speak up. If you hear something and you're like, you know what, I have a better method, like bring it up and then, give it out there as like a suggestion or an idea, because that's how you build a connection with someone. If you don't want to be too stubborn about your idea, you want to be open to other people's ideas. So those are some of the great personalities that I typically see from the incoming. In addition to, just doing great in school, obviously you do well in your classes. You want to see that, you're, excelling all the necessary classes for your degree. But yeah.
Very good. Yeah, no, so take notes, everyone. So let's go to Lorene. What are some misconceptions of your role compared to the realities of what people think what civil engineers do or water engineering?
I think that the misconceptions some misconceptions are, well, not just in the role of, well, particularly if we're talking about misconceptions about, our projects or managing our projects, it's not just clear cut in terms of what we do. We're not, mainly just responsible for doing design, but there's so many disciplines and so many coordination that needs to be done across teams, across our project partners, that it's not just a clear cut sort of, we're not, our civil engineering is not clear cut in general. So our projects are not as clear cut too. They're very multi-layered, multi-benefit. There's so many aspects that just overlap with many of the things that we do. I believe the misconception within civil engineering too, or coming into civil engineering, is that, I don't know if this is more, I don't know if you would necessarily label it as a misconception, but we'll just go with that, in terms of just that working your way through the industry, this industry takes a lot of years of experience, a lot, professional licenses, certifications, and education, and we're professionals, we're licensed professionals, and it's not going to be where you're like, a couple of years in the game, 5 years in the game, and you're like, I'm already managing projects and I'm a senior manager. You basically have to earn your role and earn your stripes in this industry. Whereas other industries where folks can be in a couple of years and they're already project managers. I mean, nowadays, and it's really good that I'm seeing that with companies, that there is really developing deputy project management trainings. So really identifying young professionals who are, can be really great project managers after they're licensed, and learn those skills early on. I have 2 great DPMs I'm working with, and if they were just mainly just working on design and kind of just siloed or pigeonholed into doing that, they wouldn't be able to bring in a lot of the different skills and soft skills that they can are contributing to the team and our organization and our planning and our coordination, and really helping to deliver the projects in a more efficient way. Because just like Sean had mentioned, he started as an intern or worked as an intern, but he's being brought on to provide collaborative ideas, and at all levels, like the old way of thinking, like the old engineers and the way that they think of things is not the way that our industry is going. And a lot of our especially because of all these initiatives that are in place, and the infrastructure being such a high profile goal and importance and factor on a national level, on our federal level, that our administration has even really wants to fund our sort of projects that we're working on. We have to be able to think outside the box and have not just, oh, we're doing this using our industry or our particular field. Oh, we're doing a pipeline project. Well, what does that mean? Like if it's just a water, it's not just a water pipeline project. What are the other multi-layer benefits that we can bring as part of this project, whether it be stormwater, whether it be reuse or what have you, or the landscape, greening sort of benefits for the community. And that's what we have to also understand, as that as within our industries, we're not just, we're providing some infrastructure for people. Well, the people are the communities and the people are the ones who are benefiting from these our improvements and our infrastructure, but also we need to learn how to engage them and learn how the end user it's not just the client's expectations that we're trying to meet, but also the end user being our communities.
Yeah, no, definitely. Civil engineering has a big role to play in our society. So, Tam, before you have to take off, maybe we can share one key takeaway advice for our student and young professionals.
Yeah, sure, Alex. So I think as students who are thinking about entering the work field as an intern or potentially as a full-time, there's a lot of pressure on getting your cover letter correct, getting your resume correct, and there's a lot of competition from potentially your classmates or your colleagues against what sometimes is just a very small number of available internships. I'll say the advice I would give is definitely flex your connections, because as a professional at internship fairs, myself, my colleagues, we go through a lot of resumes. And so you want to get yourself noticed. If you can get some valuable face time with some professionals, that's going to definitely benefit. Definitely work on your composure overall, because what someone might take away from the experience is maybe not necessarily your name because they've seen so many faces, but definitely the attitude that you bring. And it's not always about your experience, even though it does help with the job itself. As a professional, we understand that for internships, our expectation is that you just have the right attitude and hopefully some skill sets, but definitely we'll know off the bat if the experience of meeting with you is something that we remember. So I would say work on that, and then hopefully it works out for you. Yeah, I would say, yeah, that's probably what I would give.
Very good. No, thank you. So yeah, feel free to take off. But we're gonna pivot to Sean, and I want to know what are some experiences you have gained, I guess, outside of your civil engineering classes that has helped you success in your current internship positions.
Gotcha. I would probably contribute like 90% of it to the job that I was working before. I was at Mark Thomas, which was Ganal Lumber. I was working as kind of like an on-the-floor customer service person, helping pull orders, help customers answer questions. And I gotta tell you, my people skills in the almost 4 years I was with the company, my people skills skyrocketed. I actually got people skills, and my ability to kind of talk to people and interact with them and get to know them and just help them really just got cemented and well practiced. And I gotta tell you, like sometimes customers, they can be interesting characters, putting it nicely. But civil engineers at job fairs were always super nice. So once I got to job fairs, it was like all those people skills directly transferred over. The customer service aspect, helping people, making sure that, they're being heard, understood, that, I understand what they need. That transferred to my engineering team, to my product managers, or if I'm talking to, potential clients, or if I'm at networking events, it all just carried completely over. And working in that customer service field really just taught me that, doesn't matter how much we make, doesn't matter what position we're in, what industry we're in, we're all people. We've got complicated lives that we're living, and there's no shame in just trying to go out and make friends with people you've never met. We're all in this together. That's what it comes down to. And it's been something that I've been drawing on nonstop since I started my engineering internship. Those 4 years, I could not have planned out how much those were going to help me. over my career so far. It's been pretty amazing. So anybody that can, get some work experience that's non-engineering related, I can almost guarantee it's going to transfer over to some degree.
Very good. Yeah. Yes. Let's go to Brigida. On top of the soft skills that Sean mentioned and gained, what are some technical preparation that students can learn in order to get into your field of transportation engineering?
Yeah, I think like in school, just, learn all those concepts. These are all applicable to your day-to-day. And then be aware of the industry. So be aware of who your potential clients will be when you become a professional. So just understanding that, Caltrans, they manage all the highway system in California, and name drops during these interviews. It's great because we know that you're aware of the industry. And so these are the type of people that we want to have in our company. Also, like Tan said, be involved, make yourself visible. It's hard to be visible now because everyone's remote. But if you go to a professional event that's virtual, you see some names, you didn't get to talk to them, don't be afraid, add them on LinkedIn, message them, get to know them. So these are some things that will make you stand out.
Yeah. And I want to go back to the question I asked Tan earlier to Laureen about how is your, I guess, being Asian American, how can we learn more about, you talked about importance of management skills before and on top of engineering skills. How did you learn that type of aspect of those skill sets, and how's that affected utilize them within your career?
Are you talking about in terms of being Asian American?
Yeah, exactly.
Like our cultural background.
Background upbringing.
I mean, I think that
to be like type A or maybe more introverted side. So I guess that's I know it's stereotypical speaking, but yeah, maybe you can address some of that.
Well, if we're going to talk stereotypes, I think I mean, not to say it's for everyone, but
yes,
I definitely learned to focus on my studies and classes and school, and my parents were like, all you have to do is to graduate from college and do well. That's like your one job like right now, and anything that happens after that, obviously have a good career and all that. But just having that discipline, I think learning that discipline, when you're a kid, you're like, I want my freedom and I want to do more things. But like looking back, well, if I had any more freedom, I would have just been so distracted more than I already was with like my friends and partying and doing all the fun things that I wanted to do. But knowing that we had to be disciplined, because after that it's like adulting, quote unquote adulting, you end up having to be disciplined. You got to like wake up and show up to your job and do your job well. And I think, given our Asian American background, that's something that, our parents, as strict as they may seem, really honed into us. And because our job was school and our homework and our class and showing up, our work was, or our office place was the school. And that was, where we needed to show up on time and do well. But I think in terms of, in the professional realm, maybe this is more of a shameless plug for AAae, but it has really helped us, just make those connections within the industry or various industries, and making those and connecting with our fellow Asian Americans who are engineers, are architects, landscape architects. I don't even know if maybe we have some scientists who are on our in our organization, but having that connection really helps out, and there's that commonality or shared experiences that come into play, especially now that things are slowly progressing, and in terms of the diversity of the workplace on the consultant side, but particularly our public agencies. And I think that's why when taking a look at these questions initially, that was something that I wanted to take note of is that the public agencies are a lot more diverse. The employees are a lot more diverse, and we need to, as consultants and the companies that we work for, need to be more reflective of our clients and those public agencies, and they, don't want to just see the old school way and the old school makeup of folks. So we need to definitely be more reflective of our clients and the agencies we work with.
Okay. And lastly, I want to ask, this is for anyone to follow up on kind of AAae being involved, is how can someone make the most out of joining a professional organization, especially students or young professionals from WTS, or from your experience from AAae, or your experience with WTS, or Sean, your experience with ASCE. Anyone just start?
I can start. So I'm actually the scholarship chair for WTS Orange County. And so I interact a lot with students. And so if you're a student, school is expensive, apply for scholarship. It's a great way to get noticed. If you get selected as a winner, that's just like an A+. Like, employers going to see that because you're going to get announced in front of everyone. And we're going to see that you're performing really well in school. So that's one. I mean, it's a plus. Like, one, you get the exposure to professionals, and second, you get free money for school, right? So why not? And then second, be involved in the professional organization, like volunteer if they have activities. And then, a lot of time when you volunteer, you don't have to pay for these events. And I know professional events can be really expensive. Even the student rate, sometimes it might not be at your budget. But if you're volunteering, they let you go for free. So that's a really, really great way to get yourself outside and involved in the professional industry.
Great. Lori or Sean, do you want to address?
I would personally say making friends, definitely, and then try to make something. For me personally, it's to make something happen with that friendship. So it's not just go in, shake hands, hi, my name is Sean, and leave it at that. A lot of times, my lasting connections have been introduction, follow-up email, sometimes even a follow-up Zoom call. Just like half an hour to an hour. It's like, hey, how's it going? I just want to talk to you about what you do. It sounds really interesting. Love to get to know you. And sometimes, I'm surprised. I remember I was having a Zoom call with an engineer at another firm, and she was very generous with her time. I was expecting an hour Zoom call. I was expecting like 45-minute Zoom call, ended up being like an hour and a half, like it completely went overtime, and she was totally fine with it. So I was super grateful to her. And it's just been, great places to meet people. But I think the big thing for me has been making connections and then trying to make something happen with those connections, just to like kind of cement it as like, not just that, oh, I have your email. It's like, oh, I know you. I know you as a person. I know what's, I was able to talk to you for a bit. That for me has been a big thing.
I guess you're waiting for me to answer the question, but I mean, basically, Brigida and Sean both touched upon it. Scholarships was the first thing I was going to say, and with AAae, another shameless plug, but applying for our scholarships, but even because being the board or the panel that was judging, or the judging panel, going through the scholarship applications. It gave us a chance through those applications to get to know, it was our chance to get to know these applicants and these students. Otherwise, we would have never had any interaction with them or known them. And it was, their first, and it was beyond just a resume, a part of the application process is the resume, but the whole package and, seeing the final project and photos of them, really gave us a chance as professionals to be able to have an interaction with these particular students. So agreeing with Brigida's point, and with Shauna was his point, definitely networking with when you're attending these events. And I know we're in the virtual realm right now, so it's difficult, but I mean, even here, getting involved and attending the events that AAae, AASCE, and other organizations have, their name, at the very least, showing your face, your name, and that's something, and then eventually you're going to hopefully run into each other at another event. And you're like, I saw you, didn't I meet you there? And then, pick up a conversation from there. And I think that beyond, in getting involved, not just, applying for the scholarship or scholarships or networking, if there are opportunities for students to be involved in those particular, organizations, step up to that, because I feel that not only does it give you a chance to network and get your name and show your skills within those professional organizations within our field, but also get involved with organizations on your campus, because on the student organizations and clubs, because I feel like I talk to my friends who are from all different types of industry, from marketing to politics to the medical field, and myself coming from engineering, that one thing that has really helped us to learn how to speak and network and manage projects and wheel and deal and negotiate and to think outside of the box was the soft skills that we learned as being student leaders and being part of organizations. I still give credit to being involved all those years I was in college to my Filipino American organization, Kababayan at UCI. So, because when I joined, I was just like, oh, this is for fun. And, all my friends are doing it. And, we're doing fun stuff and going to parties and, going to events. And then eventually you join the board and you're one of those student leaders making decisions. You don't realize it at the time, but these are skills that we're not learning in our classes. And ultimately, you're going to be a person who's going to show up and be that leader who is going to be making those decisions or negotiating or, meeting clients and wheeling and dealing and what have you, that, you don't learn in the classroom. So that would be my definitely my main takeaway is getting involved as much as you can. Because and even on with communities like NGOs or community organizations, they're now with the projects that I'm working on, like I mentioned, as Alex, our stormwater projects, we're really getting, community engagement is very much something that is becoming more and more of an important factor that our public agency clients are looking into. And, as consultants and as engineers, that's not our background, but it's something we bring in our sub-consultants to do, but for us to be able to bring that to the table as engineers and say, oh, I've been involved with community organizations and with whether it be Asian Americans or Latino Americans, or Black organizations, that's something, it exposes us to something and that otherwise we would have never been involved with. And we bring that to the table as engineers.
Great. Yeah, thank you for those takeaways and advice. I guess time's wrapping up. We're closing soon, but I wanted to give the chance for Brigida and Sean too for key takeaways for our students that you want to leave them with. Start with Brigida.
Yeah. Just like I said, don't be shy. Add us on LinkedIn, reach out to the professionals that you meet virtually or in person. I've been getting people messaging me like on LinkedIn, and it's actually quite nice. I've gotten like some really, really amazing resume. So don't be shy on sending your resumes to just like people you've never met before, because you never know, that might be the person that can bring you into the professional industry.
Yeah, no, especially if you don't have a LinkedIn, start one now. It's definitely the go-to place for professional networking. Yeah. Sean?
Yeah, and I think for me, I would say the big takeaway is, at least for me, it's been the importance of an internship. Classes are great, they teach a lot. Student organizations are great, they teach a lot. But internships are really sometimes, or actually I would say most of the time, what sets people apart. I think talking to professionals, I mentioned I have an internship, the conversation can steer in a totally different direction that it couldn't without that internship. And I think that, sometimes I meet students where they're kind of questioning trying to get an internship, and I always, try and tell them like, no, definitely try and get it. I would definitely 100% put it down as borderline essential if you're trying to get while you're still in college. I think that would be like the essential takeaway for me.
Great. Okay. And Lauren, do you have anything additional you want to add?
No, I agree with Sean in terms of internships, because that helps really, to start gaining that real world industry experience that, otherwise you wouldn't have gained in the classroom. And, I, as a manager, I like having the interns, and it's like, not, it's like, oh, you're excited to join us. You have an internship, and amongst your like busy, class schedule, you're here with us because it shows a lot of interest, and we're more than willing to, bring you on board and teach you things, or have you contribute and give you a task that otherwise other people wouldn't be able. In my mind, an intern is, just like a new staff engineer, a new employee. You're ready and willing to take on any of the tasks that we bring on hand.
Yeah, very good. So, yeah, with that, I mean, maybe did anyone have any questions from the audience? If not, we will go to Crystal for closing. All right. Sorry, Crystal, you are on mute.
Sorry about that. Okay, thank you to the panelists for an awesome discussion and sharing your experiences. Thank you to the participants for joining us this evening. The next webinar will focus on the construction discipline. It is on October 19. Look out for the registration email and share with your construction friends, and you should join as well to gain some insight on your future colleagues. Connect with us on social media and stay tuned for more information in the near future. And we have a QR code right here. Please scan it and fill out our survey so that we know how to improve, and give us some suggestions. So thank you, everyone, and have a good night.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye. Have a great night.